Welcome to Bedtime FairyFails. I'm Kim. This story was made possible in part by the live play D&D podcast All D20. We'll tell you a little more about them after the show. This story comes from Brian Vandenberg in South Africa. This is a story about stealing the show. Why should the big bad evil guy get to hog the spotlight? This is Ritual Impossible. Once upon a time, there was a small party of heroes that were for some reason in the realm of hell. We're used to things being bad around here, but this is a whole new level. More specifically, the sixth one. Now, their favorite townsperson by the name of Lars had been kidnapped by an undead dragon, so it's up to our heroes to go and save him. Our party was made up of a wizard named Enil Facestrider, a paladin named Rhaegar Oberon, and a warforged cleric who chose to look like a dwarf named Thor the Fifth. Now, Lars had been kidnapped for a specific purpose. A small group of angels of death needed him to be a vessel for the dark god they wanted to summon. So, being fans of both Lars and also of hell not getting any worse, they know they have to stop this ritual. They eventually track Lars to a long-abandoned church and head inside, along with a few townspeople who had come to help save their beloved Lars. Except one of them loved Lars a little less than everyone else. Because when they entered the church and saw the four angels of death performing the ritual at an altar, this townsman went full evil and turned on the party. He pledges himself to the new dark god and pulls a glass bottle out of his pocket. He yells,
"I will fight with you, Dark Lord! And I'm definitely not just doing this because I think you'll be on the winning side. Sorry, Lars."
And with that, he smashes the bottle on the ground where it lets out a huge puff of smoke. When it clears, to everyone's horror, they see he has just released a devourer. Now, a devourer is a large fiend that is just creepy as hell. It looks like a cross between a zombie and a goblin. With its skeleton-like body and pointy ears and long arms, it can trap a person's soul in its ribcage and then turn your body into a zombie to do its bidding. This thing is bad news. Not to mention the now evil townsmen and the four angels of death. Our heroes look around knowing they are outnumbered 2-1. This battle would be a long and difficult one they may not survive. But they have to try. For Lars.
For Lars!
And the battle begins. Now, not only are our heroes outnumbered, they're also at a disadvantage. This room is filled with runes and other spells to prevent our heroes from using their normal fighting styles. So our normally teleporting Enil is stuck using his legs, and Thor the Fifth has no access to the auras he usually relies on in battle. Because of this, the fight goes on for ages, with our heroes chipping away at each foe. Unfortunately, the foes are chipping away at our heroes faster. The party manages to down 2 of the Angels of Death, but it's still 4-on-3 when Rhaegar the Paladin goes down.
Rhaegar! No!
Shouts Enil.
I'm almost out of spell slots.
Calls Thor the Fifth.
I won't be able to keep everyone alive for much longer.
Mere seconds later, Thor the Fifth passes out too. It's all down to Enil, and he's badly beaten and outnumbered 4-1. He looks around the room for any other option. He knows there's no way he can fight off these creatures alone, so he has to find another solution. Suddenly, he remembered the Herald of Darkness blood vial he had in his pocket. The whole party had brought some along to stop the ritual, but they hadn't had the chance to use them yet. Enil knows this is his last chance. He is about to die alongside the rest of his party if he doesn't do something. Anything to put a stop to this. So he grabs the vial, sprints towards the front of the church, and flings the vial onto the altar. It shatters, spilling blood everywhere. He then draws on his arcane knowledge to finish the angel's ritual.
Dark God! I summon you to me! Come into this plane and do my bidding!
The enemies watched, stunned, as a dark figure steps through a portal and takes over poor, beloved Lars's body.
Who summons me? What do you want?
Says the dark god through Lars.
I did!
Shouts Enil.
I need you to kill all of my enemies in this room!
Lars gives a nod, and a giant magical scythe appears and proceeds to cut down everyone in the room, stopping just before hitting our heroes. Enil looks around and breathes a sigh of relief. They had just escaped certain death by hijacking the bad guy's ritual. How's that for ingenuity? Lars the Dark God turns to Enil and says,
I'll be leaving now. Thank you for interrupting their ritual. I'm quite content not being on the material plane.
And just like that, he vanished, leaving a confused and terrified Lars standing by the altar.
Lars!
Yells Enil happily.
We did it! We did it all for you, buddy! You're safe now!
Lars was never the same again after having the Dark God inside his brain. But being beloved by all, he was protected and safe for the rest of his life, even if he is super boring now. The end. This story was sent in by Jell Boss, the same submitter that brought us The Roar of Captain Coot. In this story, we'll hear about another amazing takedown by the great Captain Coot. Or at least he says he did. This is...
Captain Coot Roars Again!
Once upon a time, there was a party of heroes who were trying to persuade a king to join their cause. There was just one problem. The king was way on the other side of the island, and to get there quickly, they would need a ship. Our master negotiators were a half-elf rogue/bard named Captain Christopher Coot, Drost Bronzefoot, the dwarven wizard, Thelandria, the half-elf paladin, a sorcerer/warlock named Rin the Magnificent, and Agoni, the tiefling monk. Now, the heroes needed to secure passage on a ship, but the only one they could find was captained by a woman, much to Captain Coot's dismay. You see, as a pirate, he believed that it was bad luck to have a woman on board, so a female captain would only be bad news. He looks at his other party members before boarding and says,
Are you sure this is a good idea? Having a woman aboard the ship is bad luck.
We've already been over this.
Says an annoyed Drost.
For the last time. I'm also a woman, and so is Thelandria. We have to be on any ship we pick. How will we have any worse luck with one more woman?
Captain Coot rolls his eyes and says,
But she's the captain. This is a terrible idea.
Rin the Magnificent, who at this point was tired of hearing the same argument over and over, says,
Are you really going to let your ridiculous superstitions prevent us from getting to the king? Just get on the damn ship.
But what if...
Go!
Captain Coot begrudgingly walks aboard, mumbling under his breath about how they're bound to run into trouble. And much to everyone's dismay, Captain Coot was right. But not because of bad luck. Actually, it was because the captain knew the fastest way to the other side of the island was right through rock territory. And at first glance, rocks don't seem all that bad. They're just big birds. Except, they're not just big birds. They're enormous birds with a wingspan of over 200 feet, and they rival dragons with their size. They prey on horses and other large animals, but won't hesitate to defend their home. As the ship heads into the Rock's territory, everyone gets quiet. All eyes are on the sky, watching for any sign of the enormous birds. They see several smaller birds circling overhead, but nothing else. That is, until they notice the birds descending and getting larger and larger until it was clear that these were not smaller birds. These were rocks, 4 of them to be exact, all circling and getting bigger and bigger as they came closer to the ship.
Rocks!
Yells the captain.
Prepare for battle!
The crew explodes into action, manning cannons, grabbing weapons, and heading for cover. Our heroes do the same as Captain Coot yells,
See? This is exactly what I said would happen. But nobody listened to the great Captain Coot.
Oh, shove it up your ass, Coot!
Drost yells back at him. The Rocks begin their attack, diving at the heroes and snatching crew members with their giant talons. All but one of our heroes were fighting valiantly, shooting spells and arrows, hitting the massive birds with magic weapons and swords. Meanwhile, Captain Coot is hatching a plan. He would drown one of the birds using Tasha's hideous laughter, which is a spell that causes the target to fall to the ground in uncontrollable laughter. He would single-handedly take down a rock and be a hero. Again. So Captain Coot prepares his best bird joke and casts the spell as he yells,
Aye, bird brain! What's orange and sounds like a parrot? A carrot!
He watches expectantly for a moment, but nothing happens.
Hey, Coot! I'm pretty sure that bird is too dumb to speak English.
Yells Wren. Since Captain Coot had been unsuccessful, he retreats and lets everyone else take down the rocks without him. After the battle, Captain Coot reappears on deck and notices a giant rock feather. He picks it up, sticks it in his hat, and says,
This shall remind me of the day the great Captain Coot drowned a rock with a minor feat of magic.
Drost looks at him confused and says,
You didn't drown it. You just yelled a bad joke and then ran and hid.
Captain Coot gives a little wink and a smirk and says,
Aye, but no one else has to know that.
and that's how Captain Coot supposedly saved the day. Again. Maybe. Not really. The end. Thanks for listening. If you like D&D podcasts, which clearly you do, be sure to check out one of our favorites, All D20. You can find them on Spotify, Apple Podcast, or anywhere else you listen. To submit a fail, visit our website at bedtimefairyfails.com or message me on Instagram or Facebook. You can find me on Instagram and Facebook as Bedtime FairyFails.
Aye, mates, gather round. Let me tell you the story about how I killed a rock and saved the day once again. So, there I was on the ship, all alone, by me lonesome, no one else. The rocks were diving. I figured at least I could take one with me before I go. So I looks at the bird and I say, Hey, bird brain, what's orange and sounds like a parrot? A carrot! And I watched it plummet to the sea and down deep into Davy Jones' locker. And then I saw the feather on the deck. I picked it up and I put it in me hat as a souvenir.
No, you didn't.
Yes, I did, sir. I even wrote a song about it. For another pint, I'll sing it for you.
You did what? Birds don't speak English.
Yes, they do, Tanya.
I found a feather like that in my yard the other day.
It seems to me that's an ass feather.
I wrote a song about it. Captain Cootie went to town, he just drowned a birdie, stuck a feather in his hat,
And we all call baloney.